Wearing my COVID thing.
So, yeah, like I said, I'm in the dining room. The kids are up, awake, and aware, and everybody's in the house. So typically, when I'm working from home, there's not a whole crowd here. But today, I've got a whole crowd.
Yeah, that's okay.
In fact, they can come say hi if you want to. Want to come say hi to my Aunt Kristina? Or,
And their aunt, Kristina.
huh?
And their aunt. Hello.
Yeah, this is your great Aunt Kristina too. Say hi.
Hi.
She's not dressed. She's all right, so you can come say hi. He's getting dressed. He wants to get dressed first.
Oh, okay. We have priorities.
The baby's dressed, but she's eating.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let her snack. So she'll be cool. But anyway,
Okay.
so how are you?
I'm pretty good. The sun is shining. It's cold here though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only
Yeah, it's a little
it's
chilly here too. Good. What's your
63 in the house. I haven't turned on the furnace yet.
Oh yeah, we haven't either.
I'm trying to acclimate.
We got new jammies for the kids last night. We got them both like we got Adeline Sally from like the Nightmare Before Christmas. So she's got like a Sally outfit, and then Max has like a Jack Skellington
Oh, yeah.
pajamas. And then but we had gotten the baby the Sally pajamas when they first rolled them out a month ago. But now they have the big kid stuff that just came out at Target, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the reason I wanted to meet was it's October 7th, 2023. And I just
And I'm
wanted to,
still alive.
yeah, God willing, you will be for a long time.
No, that's the
So,
plan. Well, it's my plan.
but one of the things I was talking about with you last time we spoke was how, you know, I don't have anything like any family history of our family, you know, because it's not something I ever really talked about with my grandma. I was probably too young and immature to talk about it with her before she passed. And just never really thought about that kind of thing, you know?
Our family was not big on passing on history.
Right. Yeah. And
everything was just accepted. That's what happened.
Right. And we were talking about this, my wife and I were talking about this with her grandfather because he passed a couple years ago. And we were just thinking it'd be nice for her to do something like this with her grandmother just to get the family history. And like she was like, well, it's too bad, you know, we never did anything like that with your grandma. I'm like, well, I still have my Aunt Christine.
Yeah.
My Aunt Christina. So we can
still alive.
Yeah.
Brain cells still functioning most of the time.
This one's
Hey. She's very curious. Like, where did you come from? What do you mean?
Give Bella a cracker too. If you're gonna stand in front of her. So, but anyway, sorry.
That's all right.
Well, what I was thinking was I had some questions I thought we'd kind of go through, like just for family history. Like, for example, your parents. Like, do you know much about, like, I know you know their names, obviously, but do you know like how they met? Like maybe you could tell me their story.
Oh boy.
And I'm gonna mute myself so there's not as much background noise on my end when you're talking.
Well, my mother was the maid, helper, house girl, whatever you want to call it, for my grandmother, my father's mother.
Okay.
And then my mother got pregnant. And
oh wow.
Yeah, apparently grandma wasn't home a lot. And my mother told me that Grandma Perry looked at her son and said, "You are no son of mine."
Oh wow.
So they eloped. And with all of my aunts and uncles on my mother's side. They piled into a car and went to West Virginia. Apparently West Virginia was the place to elope to at that time.
Yeah. Where were
And
they? Where were they living at the time? In Zanesville?
in Licking County, Gray Shot, Ohio was where
Okay.
my father was living, and my mother was somewhere close to there.
Okay.
And so they toddle off to West Virginia and get married, and everybody in the car gets drunk except for my mother, and she's driving home. And she told me that as she's driving home, the gear shift lever came out of the gearbox, and she couldn't shift gears at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, it made the drive home a little bit interesting for her. So they were married. We found out later my father had been dating this other woman that he was supposed to marry.
So he was already kind of betrothed, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. But he held with what he needed to do, and he did it. And it didn't make for a really happy home over the long term.
Yeah.
I mean, they grew to love each other, but there was always that shadow hanging over them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how they met.
Do you know
Mom
about about
graduate.
what when you know about around what time this would have been? Like what years?
I think mom would have been 18.
Yeah.
I think they died, or they were born in the
Abby might actually have this info. She has all this stuff on
Yeah.
ancestry.com, so we can always.
Yeah. I don't know when they were born. I know
Okay.
Dad was 57 when he died.
57. Yeah.
And Mom, I think, was 89 or 90 when she died.
Yeah. I remember when she passed. She
Yeah,
was in Adams Lane nursing center there in Zanesville.
right.
And
Yeah.
before that, she was in that nursing home on Robert Perry. Yeah. Here. My wife has the data here.
Ah,
So, well, she had it. Okay. Robert was born in 1916 and Lila was born in 1918.
yeah.
So,
And if you go into,
and if you click on them,
you can view the profile and it can give you the facts that I have found so far.
okay. Oh, so okay, cool. So yeah, Abby has a lot of this. She's a ancestry.com sleuth. So I'll keep
We
her
should
on
introduce
standby.
we
as
should
my
introduce
fact
her
checker.
to my cousin.
Yeah.
John Walters has also done a lot of the
Okay.
ancestry.
John
work.
Walters. Okay, I'll write that down.
And you can find him on Facebook. He's not on there a lot anymore. He's retired and he's running around. But yeah.
Yeah. So they got married in a fever, like the Johnny Cash song.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then
instead of going to Jackson, they went to West Virginia.
West Virginia, of all places. And
so with your father, Perry, is that a French name or is that like what's the history there? Do we know?
Anglo-Saxon, it means pear tree.
Pear tree?
Yeah, and I think it's when the Saxons invaded England.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, most of our people come from England, Ireland, France, German, and Welsh. So it's right in that.
Yeah, it's weird. I did the DNA test. Like my wife got me that for Christmas, and like here we were thinking we were a lot more Irish and English, and then like it was like, oh no, you're 40% Scottish. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like there's still Irish in there, but like the lion's share of the mix was Scottish, and I'm like, I wouldn't have thought that based off of the family histories that we hear, you know.
Well, I was hoping for American Indian, but because I had 23andMe done, and I don't have American Indian, I do have sub-Saharan African. Just a
I had
teeny,
one
teeny bit.
1% Jewish it threw in there randomly. I was like, oh, neat.
Oh, wow.
I have a
Somebody
Jewish coworker,
crossed
and like I was joking around. He's kind of a mentor of mine, and I told him I'm 1% Jewish. We laughed about it, you know.
Oh,
So
well, we're good at blending,
yeah.
you know, blend
Well,
to wherever you need.
my mom always said we're like Heinz 57, you know, we're like a variety, like a blend.
And she never saw our DNA because 23andMe went all the way back.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed the people moving up from Africa into around the Mediterranean and then into Germany and then France and then on into England. Yeah.
I might look into doing that because I did the ancestry one and I hear it's not as good or as accurate. I've heard some things. So I might retest with the 23andMe and see if we
Yeah.
get some different things. Because like Angie and my mom talk about their father being like Native American and having some Native American history just on the Dickinson side.
They had Irish, or not Irish, Italian.
Yeah, so I might just go right to the source and go cut and swab my mom's mouth or Angie's
Yeah.
and get one sent in.
Yeah, and see what's going on.
See what's going on there. Because I'm all tainted, you know, I've been watered down even more.
Well, not really, but you're
Yeah.
just different. You're unique.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I just was like going to ask like how they met, what their story was. And then also where did you grow up? Like, so where did you guys live? I know you said West Virginia, but did you come
No,
back?
no, they went there to be married.
Oh, they
Then
just
they
went to get married.
back,
Back. Okay.
and they lived close to Gray Shot for a while, and Dad worked for a milk company, a dairy, where he washed the bottles.
Okay.
And then he went to work at the power plant after that, and they moved to Philo. And they lived there. I mean, they moved there probably when Janie was a little under 8, because she died at 8, the first baby.
What happened there?
My mom had twins, the first pregnancy.
Yeah.
And June died at 3 days. And Janie died at 8 from a stroke.
Okay. Is this now? I thought I saw something about this. Like, did she fall down some stairs, or was the stroke because she fell down the stairs, or like was the stairs falling because she had a stroke, or was it nothing related at all? Was I just
I
hearsay?
don't think it was related to the stairs. She may have hit her head,
Okay.
but she had a massive stroke. She was 8.
My gosh.
Does that give you a clue as to the family health history?
Yeah, it sounds like strokes run in the family.
Well, it wasn't just the family. That whole area where I grew up, I thought the only thing that killed people were strokes and automobile accidents.
There's something in the air because it's so prevalent in that area, even for young children to have strokes is odd.
Yeah, that was very odd. I think it's because most of the people in that area came originally from Virginia, and they were the English settlers who came in and opened up the area.
Yeah.
So that got passed down.
Yeah. So you were talking, okay, so you guys grew up in Philo. So your siblings, we started talking about that. Like, what are their names? Like, how many siblings did you have?
I had,
Start them from youngest to oldest. Like,
I knew Jacqueline Isola.
my grandmother. Yeah.
She was 7 years older than me. Richard Thomas Perry was 3 years older than Jackie. And Juanita May was 3 years older than Richard.
Okay. And then you're the youngest.
Yep.
So Juanita, Richard, Jackie, Kristina.
Yeah.
And then, but before even Juanita, and you never met them, but you had two older sisters that were twins that had passed.
Yes.
3 months and one at 8 years.
No, I think Janie died at 3 days.
Oh, 3
Or
days.
June
Sorry.
died at 3 days. Janie was at 8.
It's you know, it's funny, like not funny, but it's interesting that like I wonder if there was something going on there and medically they just couldn't find it back then, you know? Because this
Right.
was in the 1920s or 1930s, early 1930s,
30.
late 30s. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably likely that they had some kind of congenital heart defect or something like that. You know, babies are born with that kind of thing all the time now, and they spot it early and they do surgery sometimes in the womb to fix it.
Yeah.
But, so
But I think June bailed. She decided she didn't want to come into this world.
what is this, Philo, Ohio? Ohio, I'm out.
I don't want to live in Philo.
I don't want to live in Philo next to the coal burning electric plant.
Yep. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. So, Robert, you were saying living with Robert was full of drama last time we spoke. Like, what was that about?
Oh, he had a temper. A
Yeah.
temper like you wouldn't believe. We had one of the first electric lawnmowers in our town because my father was out there trying to start the regular gas and it wouldn't start. And he threw a temper tantrum at it. And I went out to the garage. Then he left. Okay. And I went out to the garage and looked, and there was the lawnmower. It was about this high with the wheels sticking out from the sides. He had smashed it. Yes. Yeah, he had a temper. Yeah, every once in a while, he and my mother would have an argument. And I think a lot of times it was just an excuse for him to go over to the bar and sit and drink with his cronies. But it made tension in the house like you wouldn't believe, because mom was making plans for getting a job, supporting us and all of this. She was her own drama queen. Yeah.
So when your house growing up, you had Juanita, Richard, and Jackie living with you
For a while. Yeah.
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 You're what, 10 years younger than Jackie, right?
7.
7 years younger than Jackie. Okay.
10 years younger than Richard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And they had told me this a couple of times, that when mom was carrying me, that my parents did not speak to one another. They communicated through notes in my father's lunch pail.
On his way to the milk factory.
Well, no, he was working at the power plant by that time.
I was going to make a joke about you being the milkman's kid, but
Yeah.
it's too late for that. He was already working at the factory at that time.
And so that they went through months of this. It wasn't until sometime after I was born that I have enough of my father's features and enough of my mother's features that it was very clear.
Yeah.
My father was. But it created such a tension in the house. Think about this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 7, 10, and 13 years old and your parents are behaving like this, how much tension did they live with?
Yeah.
Until I was born? And do you think they were happy to see me when I actually arrived? No, they were not. They were not. And that carried over, and so I came under that cloud, and I kept that cloud for a long, long time. I think I've gotten rid of most of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think parents understand how much what they do and say impacts their kids.
Right. I'm trying
And
to do
that
better.
was-
That's something as a father, like I have 3 kids of my own now. And
Mhm.
that's something that as a father, I've tried to think about. And it's hard, especially in the moment. Like I have a temper sometimes too, especially with
Mhm.
the kids when they're doing something that I know I would have gotten punished severely for. You know what I mean? And they're doing it
Yeah.
near me. It's one of these things like my knee-jerk reaction is stop doing that thing because we're gonna get in trouble. You know what I mean? So like
Mom's going to come and get you.
yeah, like I don't know, like I had kind of a rough upbringing too, in that, some of the men in my life were kind of rough on me, um, with punishment. But it's one of these like things like I was never like, thank God I was never like sexually abused or anything creepy like that. But like if there was any kind of discipline, it was usually in the form of like, I'm gonna punch you, like not I'm gonna spank you because I want to teach you different. I'm gonna hit you because I'm an alcoholic and an asshole. Like that was kind of like I had, the men of my life were like Mark Williams and like some of the men my mom was with.
Yeah.
And it was odd because, as an adult looking back, I give some of those people some slack because of how young they were. As a 37-year-old raising small children, or, and now I'm 39, like I started looking at this a few years ago and I'm like these people were like 20 years younger than me trying to deal with the same scenario I'm in right now. And
Mhm.
I'm more financially stable. Like I own a home, I have vehicles, I make pretty good money, I have a
Mhm.
career. These are things that like the people that were trying to raise me never had any of these things. My
Right.
mom didn't get to own a house until she was a lot older than me,
Yeah.
and it's just I try to give them some slack. Let's just put it that way. But at the same time, I also look back and I'm like, what can I do differently to make my children better? And then the hard thing is after they go to bed, that quiet time in the house, when I'm sitting
Yeah.
there reflecting on the day, and I get
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, and try to regroup and do better the next day, I guess. I don't know. It's hard.
That's really all you can do. And it's not like I had a horrendous childhood. It just had that cloud hanging over it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was an okay childhood. I didn't know that we were not rich.
Yeah.
Okay. It took me a while to figure that out. And I didn't know that I went to school with some kids who were rich. Who knew?
And my kids have no concept of money. Like
None.
I'm trying to like the thing they want right now is a Nintendo Switch. Like they want one so bad
Mhm.
because we went on vacation and our friends' kids brought theirs and they got to play them for a little while and they had play all these Mario games. They love Mario. Their birthday
Mhm.
party is Mario themed and we're doing it later this month. So they're both getting
Yeah.
that. Yeah, they don't know. But anywho, yeah,
Well, what? They're in the other room. Of course they
yeah,
know.
they don't, they're oblivious. So anyway,
Well, for now,
they're locked in on whatever is on YouTube at the moment. No, but
you
anyway,
have 2 years. You have
it's
two
one of those,
years, and then they start connecting dots.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Adeline's starting to connect dots and she listens. She'll sit there and be attentive. And like,
Yeah.
especially when Abby and I are like gossiping about stuff we shouldn't be talking about in front of our kids.
Yeah.
Like, did you see so and so's daughter because so and so did whatever? Just, like some cheer mom at the cheer camp did something and Abby's telling me about it. And then like her daughter's doing this and it's uncouth and yada, yada, yada. And then we look in the back and Adeline's just listening. And we're like, oh, stop.
Well, to a certain extent, she's going to learn what not to do
Yeah.
from listening to that, but
Oh, the
you
other thing
don't
is like,
want her carrying it around the neighborhood.
oh, and it's like my sister, has had some problems. She's not, I'm not going to go too deep dive into my sister, but, um, she's very curious about what happened with my sister and why she's not raising her children and why she doesn't drive and
Why your mom has been.
why my mom is raising my nephew instead of his own mother and where his parents are. And just, she's got all these questions. And I'm like, I don't want to give her the truth at the moment because it's just rough. I don't want to tell her, she might have some substance abuse issues and things like that. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
really know.
Kevin needs help. That's
She
all.
does. She
That's
does.
all.
She needs
That's
help.
all she
And
needs
she'll
to know.
send
They're
me,
helping heaven.
yeah, she'll send me these long, I'm talking like
Yeah.
paragraphs, like a book on Facebook Messenger. And it got to the point where I had to block her because they're just, it almost reminds me of like manic or bipolar, like where you just see like these people that just go crazy and just want to tell you their whole life story and jam it all in one, but they're fabricating half of it. And I'm just like, okay, none of that happened, and I'm not going to keep reading this. So I
Yeah.
just responded back with, get help. And then she was just like, you hate me. And I said, I don't hate you. I love you. I'm praying for you, but get help. And that's the
Yeah.
end. And
And until she
unfortunately,
does that, no one can reach her.
no. And I don't want her to be around my life. I don't want her to be around my kids,
Well, yeah, who would? I mean, she's put those big, it's like she never learned how to use a paragraph. It was
Yeah,
like,
it's
can
all
we
one
take a
sentence.
break here
It's all
somewhere?
one sentence. Yeah. It's like 370 words, all one sentence.
At least 370 words.
And I'm like, okay, we're done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. But anyway,
At first when she was doing it, I thought it was being somewhat creative. And then as it went on, it's not creative anymore. It's just ranting and rambling and
yes, ranting and raving, I would say, yeah,
yeah,
seems to be more accurate. Yeah.
yeah,
But anyway, like that's the kind of stuff that when I'm talking about that, Adeline is just zeroed in. She wants to hear it. Like right now,
yeah.
she's in the other room, like trying to catch all the
That's
clues, put it
adult
together.
stuff.
Yes.
That's fun when you
Yeah.
know adult stuff.
Yeah. If you want to get your kids' attention, talk about something they're not supposed to hear.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Or pretend that they're not supposed to hear it.
right. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that like the whole Nintendo thing, when we were on vacation, like their friends had them, they wanted them so bad. They've been
Mm.
looking up videos. They're watching a video right now that's basically a walkthrough of a game called Luigi's Mansion,
Mm.
and they're obsessed. And I'm like, yeah. And then I tried to explain to her, I was like, you have no concept of money? I was like, you know how much this Nintendo costs? She's like, no. I was like, it's $360. I was like, do you know how much that is? I was like, how much is your lunch at school? She said, I don't know. And my wife's like, what's like $3 and 70 cents or $3.50. And I was like, you could buy lunch for 100 days
Days.
with how much it would cost to buy one Nintendo Switch.
She also doesn't have concept of time, so that doesn't really.
But she has no concept of time either. So 100 days doesn't mean a whole lot to her. But it's one of these things that like Max is starting to get it because he's been bringing his wallet with him places and wanting to buy things. So
Oh.
he's seeing the value of his dollar, So like he'll want a certain thing and he'll say, but I have money, and he'll pull out like $2. I'm like, that costs a lot more than $2, buddy. And then he'll go, oh. So then he goes and gets more money out of his piggy bank and puts it in his wallet. And then so we went out to the football game. He actually saved us because we had like my daughter was cheering in a football game in Lakeview, and we didn't bring cash with us. And when we got there, it was $3 for each parent. Students get it for free. And I'm like, oh, I don't have $6. I was like, I need to run to the ATM. But like we were going to drop Adeline off and I was going to run to the ATM, and I'm like, I don't have cash. And Max was like, I have money. And he pulled his wallet out, and I was like, you do have money. So I pulled 6 ones right out of his little wallet. He had 7 of them in there. He saved the day. And then we ran to the ATM and I paid him back his money. But then like we went to the vending concession stand, and he was trying to buy certain things. And I was explaining how money works. So he's starting to piece it together. She is to some degree. When we went to Disney, we let them bring some of we basically cashed in everything in their piggy banks. I think Adeline had like $70 and Max had like 40 or 50. And we let them buy like outfits at Disney.
Wow.
Sorry, I went on a whole tangent line there. But basically the whole point of all that was to say, like, children have no concept of money. It's hard to explain whether or not you're rich or poor. I'm a lot better off, and they are a lot better off than what I had growing up.
Oh yeah. Well, even I made more money when I was 25 than my father made when he died.
Yeah.
So things have really gone up. The problem is back then, my lunch was a quarter.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. I'm going to skip over. So we're going right from siblings to like, I was going to talk about you, like your education and employment history. Like how did you get to Chicago? Things like that.
Okay.
Tell me your story. How did you end up where you are?
Well, first, I worked at the Kresge store. I worked at the lunch counter
Where?
after I graduated from high school.
Mhm.
And then I had met Luke at the time and got married because that's what I was supposed to do.
You got married.
And he went into the army and he was stationed in Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii.
Oh, that's cool.
And I worked for the commissioned officers mess open and the chief petty officers mess. I ordered all of their liquor.
What was his position in the Army?
He was a Spec 5. He worked for the commander-in-chief of the Pacific, Admiral McCain, and he worked in his communications center running a printing press.
Was he an officer?
No,
No, okay.
strictly enlisted. Yeah. And so I worked at that, and then we came back from Hawaii to Ohio and settled in Zanesville. And I got a job at Essex Wire working in their office. And then I left there. Where did I go from there? I don't remember. I think I was at Essex for a long time. And then we moved to Columbus. That's right. We moved to Columbus. So I had to quit. And I went to the Columbus Business University for 2 years.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, Luke was running a clerk station. So that was considered his station.
Yeah.
And it was in a not horrible, not great neighborhood. So I was taking care of the house and going to school. And then things just fell apart in our relationship. He ran away from home one day.
Oh.
I couldn't find him anywhere. And so I went over to this friend's house. He started hanging out with this friend that he met at the station.
Yeah.
And this friend was into wrestling, where he'd go around different places and do wrestling. And but Luke was very enamored with that. So he would hang out with him, and there would always be these other women hanging out there. But when he ran away from home that day, he decided that we just didn't have anything in common anymore. And he split our savings account and he left. He ran away where I couldn't find him. So I went to visit that friend's house, and they told me they hadn't seen him. And I stayed there for a while and talked, and then I went back home.
Was he like a semi-professional wrestler?
Yeah.
Was he a spectator? Did he wrestle?
Who, Luke?
Yeah. Did he spectate or did he actually engage? Like
I think he just spectated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So he shows up the next day and tells me that he was at that house when I was there in the other room.
Oh, wow.
I was livid. And that was the end. I found a roommate and we went and moved to the other side of Columbus, and I finished up my school, and then I got a job. Well, I was working part-time for this company that did accounting work. And yeah, that was interesting. And then we got divorced.
Yeah.
I got a 1973 Plymouth Duster out of the marriage. Yay.
Hey.
So I worked for that company until things started going a little awry there.
What was Luke's last name?
Gibbons, Gibbens.
Gibbons. Okay.
Yeah, spelled with an E, not an O.
I get it.
And he was from Sonora, Ohio. It's interesting how I met him.
How?
I had this dream where this guy I was going to marry would drive up to my house in a red car, get out of the car, he'd be wearing tan pants, a brown sweater with patches on the elbows, and he would have black curly hair. So my friend was dating this other guy, gorgeous guy, but was dating him, and she wanted us to go on a double date. So we met at my house, and this red car pulls up, and a guy with tan pants, a brown sweater with patches on the elbows, and black curly hair is standing in front of the car, just like I saw him in my dream. And I'm like, oh, he's here already. So, yeah.
Then after you and Luke, where did you end up? How'd you get to Chicago?
I went from Chicago to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
No, I mean, like you were still in Zanesville at the time, though, or Columbus at the time, right?
I was in Columbus when I was married to Luke. And then because medical management was having issues, like the IRS shut them down. I found it, well, the vice president told me to find a new job here, go talk to these people. And they were in Fort Wayne at Lincoln Life, and I went up there. And my interview was the day that Elvis died.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was, and it's a good thing that he had me do that, because they hired me and paid for all my moving and all of that. It's a good thing, because the IRS did come in and take over their whole business, because they thought he was running a sham. And he was taking money. He was using the client's pension money, like in their profit sharing plans.
Yeah.
He was using that to pay for his trips to Spain to visit his in-laws. It was very colorful at medical management. So I stayed at Lincoln for a long time, and they adopted this Japanese model of management. And
That where you work 70 hours a week until you kill yourself?
Pretty much, because they've gotten rid of all the rest of the people. There were people who were working there who went to work one day, and all of everything was packed up around their desk. They didn't know that they weren't living there, weren't working there anymore. Yeah, it wasn't a good time. So somehow I got connected with a job in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I worked there for 3 years. The guy I worked for was very much like Dad. Heavy temper.
That's kind of how it is where I'm at. I work at a company that's owned by a Lebanese family, and they have that Mediterranean temper, like where they're just
yeah, but Mediterranean people, well,
let's just put it this way. They can fly off the handle and scream at you, but
and then they're fine.
And then they're fine. Like the next day they bring you coffee and they're like, how's your night? And I'm like, yeah, it was good, thanks. But I'm kind of I grew up in that kind of environment, so I'm used to that kind of abuse. It's funny seeing some of the younger generation come in now, like the younger people, like I don't even know what gen that is, but is it Gen Z now? I'm not sure. Anyway,
I'm not sure either.
But anyway, it's funny seeing how like coddled these people are, because like, God forbid you get their pronouns wrong. Like, are you kidding me? I'm used to a manager that screams in my face.
Yeah.
I used to make a joke about how, like, Yeah, I'm not. It's about how, like, you're not an official employee until you've been screamed at by management,
Well,
who has
Jerry
to try
was
to steal from
Italian.
the manager as they're flying off the handle. We've done a lot to change the culture in the last 10 years at our
Yeah,
company. But like still, like once you get to a certain level, if you're dealing with the owners on a regular basis, you still get their temper from
oops, you
time to
froze.
time. Oh, did I freeze? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I said, yeah, we're still to the
no,
point
you're
where,
fine now.
okay, we're still to
Yeah,
the point where from time to time, if you're dealing with the owners on a regular basis, that
yeah.
you'll catch their fury if something doesn't go the way they want it to go, which I'm fine with. It doesn't bother me because I'd
Well,
be
what are
more
you gonna?
concerned if they weren't talking to me. Like that's when you'd have to be worried. Because if they're not talking to you, maybe you're there looking for someone else.
I left that job in Cleveland because, well, I was consistently 5 minutes late every day. Consistently.
Is this the Cleveland traffic?
No, it was me. I had 2 alarm clocks okay, set up, and I was still 5 minutes late every day. It drove Jerry crazy. Little OCD. So one day he calls me into his office, and I sit down in the chair in front of him, and I'm looking down the barrel of a revolver, and I can see the bullets in the chambers. He says, "What is it going to take to have you come in here on time?"
Really?
And,
At
yeah,
gunpoint?
at gunpoint.
Wow.
The thing is, he didn't care that he didn't like that I was not there at 8:30 in the morning on the dot. What he didn't like, or what he didn't recognize or care about, was that I was still there at 8 o'clock at night, still working.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he got extra, like 3 hours out of me. And he was worried about that 5 minutes.
Yeah. I've had that. I've had like where I work again, like the owners understand. They don't care. It's not, they don't care about you being there right on the dot at 8 a.m. because that's arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like what they're more task oriented, like get your things done, you
Yeah.
know? So like I'm salaried, but they do this thing where they record how many hours we're working. And it's more because of our insurance policies, like, like they want to know how many people are working. That's all. Like, and that way they can record like, you know, injuries versus hours worked. So, when we're putting in like more, I'm putting in 45 hours a week consistently or more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does it really matter if I'm there right at 8 a.m.?
Right. Unless they have a client and you need to be there.
Right,
Yeah.
that's different. If you have an appointment with a client or to be on site at a certain time, you need to be on time. And that
Right.
that I'm great at. Like I travel a lot. I'm a chemist. I travel a lot to test labs. And if I say I'm gonna be there at 8 a.m., I show up at 7:50 with donuts,
Yeah.
and I'm everybody's friend.
Yeah.
Um, so, but if it's like, hey, it's Monday and we got meeting at 9, okay, I'll see you at 8:05, or I'm gonna stop and get coffee on my way.
After
Starbucks line was
that,
long. I'm here,
yeah.
but
After that time of the gun, there came a day, it was in July. And when you work with retirement plans, you have to do a filing every year, and it's due 7 months after the end of the plan year, which calendar year normally, and then you can get an extension of 2.5 months. Well, I did all of my extensions one day, knowing that the actuary would be on Saturday to sign them, and I had the envelopes ready, the copies were done. All they had to do was fold them up and put them in the envelope and mail them. And what I got, we agreed at that point. I went to the bank to check my balance in my bank because he was paying us a month in advance. for power. And I went to the bank and there was no money in my account. And I'm like, what? So I called him up and I said, what's going on? And we agreed that I would no longer work there. So I think he paid me for a month. And then I moved and I left. A client friend of mine helped me pack up all of my stuff and send it down to Columbus to sit in their warehouse and until I got back on my feet. And I went to North Carolina thinking I'd like to go there and work. I remember interviewing for a waitress job, and this guy, they're very prejudiced against Northerners up there, down there. And this guy says, well, have you ever waited on tables before? And I said, no, I haven't. He says, well, it's really very complicated, you know. And I said, I think I can turn in an order and tote the food back to the people without a problem. Yeah, I didn't have a job in North Carolina. I did meet somebody from Chicago area down there who was in retirement plans. So I came up here and worked. So that's how I got to Chicagoland. Okay, are you on mute?
Oh, sorry, I am. My apologies.
I saw your lips moving.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I said, and how did you meet? Is that how you met your husband, Del?
I met Del. I had gone to the funeral of a friend of mine. And during this funeral, it was as though she was standing there going, look at all these people who came to say goodbye to me. And who do you have in your life? You need to change that.
Yeah.
So I came maybe a little depressed. So I went home and I called a girlfriend who loves board games, just loves playing games.
I'm a board game guy.
Yeah, and I thought, why don't I call Alice and I'll go over there and we'll play games. So I called Alice and Alice was in a very bad mood. She didn't want to play games. And I'm like, well, crap. Well, at the time they had singles dances in Chicago. So I think, okay, I'll just go there. I'll get changed and head out. And as I'm driving down this one highway, it was like we were leapfrogging. The same car would be in front of me, and then I'd pass them, and then they'd pass me all the way down there. And we got down and parked the car. I went into, to where the dance was, and it was a lot of people that night. A lot of people standing around the doors, not going in because it was crowded inside. And it was hot. And as I'm standing there, this guy comes, I see him coming, like out of my side vision. And then all of a sudden he just stops dead in front of me like he ran into a wall and turns and starts talking to me. And that was Del.
Okay.
And then when we went to leave, I discovered that he had been in that car that I had been passing. Yeah, that's by the entire way. It was very weird. So yeah, that's cool. How we. If I knew them what I know now, I would have stayed home that night.
Oh no.
Oh gosh. Oh well. Everybody has lessons. I got mine. Yeah.
So, one last thing I put in here is like any family scandals, anything interesting? Any crazy stories you can think of? If not that, then we can talk about, like, I know, was your dad a pilot?
He was a pilot. He was a pilot.
Because I remember my grandmother telling me he had a Piper Cub.
He rented a Piper Cub. Yeah. That was how I understood it from my mom anyway, because.
And then Richard was a pilot too, right? Your brother?
Yeah. Yep. It was, they wanted him to go into Civil Air Patrol, and I think he was doing something with meetings for that, but Richard just couldn't quite conform. So an organization was really not where he belonged.
He wasn't organized enough to be in an organization.
No, it wasn't that. He just had such a low opinion of other people that they would pick up on that and not really want to have him around. So Dad had, when people came to visit, relatives came to visit from Michigan, he
Yeah.
would take them up in the plane and all this stuff. Well, Mom was carrying me at the time and family was visiting. So I don't know if they started talking at that time or not. I'm assuming they did. But he crashed. So he had my cousin Betty in the plane with him, just one person, and a sudden summer storm came up and blew the plane into power lines, and he
Oh.
crashed.
Anybody get injured?
I think my aunt had, or my cousin had a scar around her face. Dad had a scar that went from like here all around here on his scalp.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty serious. That kind of took the fun out of flying for him. He did take the plane up one more time, and then that was it.
Yeah, I get that. I could see almost dying, making it less fun. I had something like that happen with me. I used to be really into whitewater rafting and kayaking.
Yeah.
And then we made the mistake of doing this right after a big storm, and they had this dam that they had opened the sluice gates because the lake that fed the lake before the dam so overfull that the parking lots were full of water. You couldn't even park there. So we had to park up like further away and carry all of our equipment in. And you saw this giant rooster tail of water shooting up from the sluice gate that they had opened and making the river so much higher than normal that like where like the river would typically oxbow back and forth,
Just
it was going straight through the forest. So we were bobbing off trees, and we went over this big falls that just had appeared out of nowhere, dumped us through like basically through the rinse cycle on the spin cycle on a washing machine. And like we had these wave trains of like 8-foot waves coming, and just like we had one dude had a few broken bones. Another guy got tangled up and had his pants ripped off because his belt, his waist got caught in a tree and ripped his pants right off. So when he came out the other end, he was just in his underwear. We lost pretty much all of our equipment that we had. It was bad. And then thank God I had these goofy little like toe shoes. I don't know if you remember toe shoes. This was probably like 8 or 9 years ago. But like I had shoes with like, they're called skeletos. So, and the reason I had like the reason this was a good thing was because I had to climb up this muddy embankment. And I was able to sink my toes in the mud to pull myself out by like tree roots. And like basically I would wait till a wave would come to lift my body up a little bit so I could climb up the side of this embankment little by little to get out of the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it was so dangerous. And I was like, yeah, we almost died. And we spent the next hour walking the sides of the river to try to get all of our equipment back. And then we had to hike all the way back to where the cars were. It was a pain. And the one guy had to go to the hospital. It was rough. But I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with whitewater rafting. You know, it was fun until
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go after a dry spell.
Yeah. We'll go when the water levels. It's weird. It's like you have to go just right. If the water levels are too high, it's dangerous. If the water levels are too low, it's dangerous. It's like you have to hit that Goldilocks moment where the water level is just right.
Yeah. Well, Mom and Dad would go canoeing every year.
Canoeing's relaxing. I take the kids canoeing, you know, it's down the Mohican.
Well, they would go up to Michigan to the Asabo River, and they would be up there for a week. My aunt and uncle would drop them off at the head of wherever they were going. And they had their tent and they had all of their equipment and their food and everything that they carried with them for that week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not my idea of fun. I mean, the canoeing was fun, but being out in the middle of nothing without, like a restaurant or someplace to eat actual food.
I think that kind of a thing, it appeals to like men and their sense of adventure when they don't have commitments. Like I'm all about camp. Like I used to go camping and hiking and all the time when I was younger. And now with kids and a wife and all these people that rely on me, even with life insurance, like they would be in rough shape without me, I'm worth more to them here than away.
Oh,
So,
well, that's good. Always make
but
yourself more valuable alive.
more valuable alive.
Yes.
That's why I'm not, I think $300,000 is the cap on my life insurance. I'm not going to go to like $1 million because then they might think it's worth getting rid of me.
Yeah, well, you never know. Yeah.
Oh.
That's only 100,000 per kid. Come on.
Yeah. That's enough to get them through college, or at least enough for Abby to pay off the house and not be destitute.
I think you need to get another 100,000 now. That way all 4 of them have 100.
No.
No.
Kids. Abby doesn't get any money. Sorry, Abby, you don't get any money. Yeah. Oh, I think my company has a $10,000 policy for me, so you can give that 10 grand. I'm joking. Anyway, so
But
but-
the goal
but-
is
but-
not to have to use it until you're really old.
yeah. So like the plan here though is like, oh, but anyway, when I was younger, like I used to go hiking all the time, camping, that kayaking, whitewater rafting, outdoor sports were my thing. Now I make a fire in the backyard with the kids and we make s'mores or hot dogs, and the kids want to go camping. I still have all my old camping equipment. I still have my High Sierra metal frame backpack and, my tent and everything down there in the basement. But every once in a while, I'll pop the tent up in the backyard and let them crawl around in it and be goofballs. I think.
Well, it wouldn't be a bad vacation for you guys to take them when they're older and all of them can walk and follow instructions, to go on the Appalachian Trail. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can do part of it.
Yeah. We went to we go to the Smoky Mountains pretty much every other year with them. And we went last May, and when we were there, we hiked this trail, this beautiful waterfall up in the side of a mountain. And we had to drive most of the way up the mountain, park at the parking lot, and then walk it. And I think it was a 2.5 mile round trip to get up there and back. We didn't bring enough water, and Abby was pregnant with Bella at the time.
Oh.
So it was rough. And I think we each brought like one of these. Like I have it, these are 32 ounces. I had one, Abby had one, and each of the kids had a little 12-ounce thermos.
Yeah, way not enough.
And it was like, there are bears. So I brought my pistol, like, so we got up there. It was beautiful. The waterfall was beautiful. It was a lot further than we expected it to be. And then the interesting thing that we learned from that trip was that if we make the children hike for 2 miles and starve them, they will eat whatever you put in front of them.
Yep.
So, like all these parents that are like, I can't get my kid to eat anything but chicken nuggets and French fries. Not me. I had my kids eating bacon wrapped burnt ends, like bacon wrapped brisket burnt ends, and the lady brought the thing out to the table. As soon as they set it down, they're like, oh my God, look at that. I guess you'll eat when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how we get our kids to try new foods. We got Max to eat crab legs because he was starving after playing on the beach all day in Myrtle Beach. Then we took him to a Calabash seafood buffet. And he's like, I just want mac and cheese. But I'm like, here, try this. And he's like, that looks yucky. I'm like, try a bite. And he goes, it's so good. It's so good. Now he's like, all I want is crab legs for my birthday. He likes crab legs and shrimp.
I agree. Yeah, crab legs and shrimp. I like those. I'm not overly fond of lobster.
I've had some pretty good lobster tail. They do a clam bake at the Shrine Club here in Youngstown every year. And they do basically like a butter poached lobster tail, and it's really good.
Yeah. Lobster is the conveyance for butter.
The butter. Yeah, the butter's good. Yeah, the butter's delicious. So
I love butter. Yay.
Yeah, it's funny. I made a cake yesterday.
23andMe came back with me that I can, the food that I eat, the fat content doesn't matter. Doesn't make me thin, doesn't make me fat. It's just,
I gotta
I
find out.
can eat.
Hopefully it's the same for me, because one of the things, I started looking into is about seed oils and how bad they are for us. Like your typical vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil,
Oh yeah, I hate canola oil.
they're so bad for you. Like they're like, so we've switched to using like avocado oil or virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
So we'll use avocado oil as like a cooking spray, a nonstick
Mhm.
cooking spray. But then like also I'll just use lard or butter. So I made a cake yesterday with the kids, and it called for half a cup of oil. And I literally melted a stick of butter, and I was like, that's my
Yep.
oil. And I didn't use, so I used like eggs. I think it was 4 eggs and a half a stick of butter, and whipped it up. And Abby's like, we were scarfing that cake down. She's like, it is so good. And I was like, it's butter. Butter makes it better. I was
But it
like,
does.
like,
But you have to be careful. I can eat butter. It's when I mix it with flour and sugar that it causes a problem.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
we had
giving
this
up flour
recipe.
and sugar.
It's called like pineapple sunshine cake, and it's really good. Where you get like a whole like 20-ounce can of crushed pineapple. You do 10 ounces in your cake mix with like 4 eggs and a stick of butter, and you whip that up like in just plain yellow cake mix. And then you put it in a greased 9x13 pan, cook that. You take a canister of Cool Whip, 8 ounces, a 1 packet of like vanilla instant pudding mix, pour that into the Cool Whip and mix it around. Pour the rest of your crushed pineapple in there, another 10 ounces, mix that around, let the cake cool, put that on top. It's like super light, kind of refreshing, not overly sugary, like
Yeah.
like a buttercream icing would be,
Yeah,
And
because you didn't really add sugar to it, did you?
no,
It was
just
only
what's in the cake
pineapple.
mix. Just what's
Yeah.
already in the pineapple or the cake mix or the whipped cream. You'll add any extra sugar.
Wow.
And yeah, it's like not overly sugary. But the problem with it is because it's not super rich, like you'll eat a half a cake and not even realize you're slamming down that much cake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's
I
super
know
buttery.
better. I know better than to start on anything with sugar, because then I can't stop.
Yeah.
It's like an addiction. They don't make enough sugar for me when I start eating it again.
Yeah. That's
So
why in the morning, black coffee, because for me, if I put sugar in my coffee, I'll be starving all day long. Like, so I did the intermittent fasting and I lost 70 pounds.
right.
But like the
That was
reason,
my inspiration, by the way.
oh, thanks. The reason it worked for me, it was because I just don't have, like right now, it's 12:02 p.m. and I haven't eaten today and I'm not hungry. But yesterday, around this time, well, a little bit later, no, it was probably around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. I think for lunch, I had smoked a brisket on Tuesday night, and then we had it on Wednesday afternoon for dinner. But yeah, I had what was left of the brisket. I sliced that up, pan fried it up, and made a sandwich with some cheese. So it's just brisket and cheese on a sandwich, and I think I put some banana peppers, and like that was my lunch. And then I made that cake with the kids after school, and then I had cake, and then by dinner time I was like, I am starving. I want all the food. I want to eat all the pasta. I want the carbs. I want the sugar. I want the bread. Give it to me. Because I had eaten sugary cake, and I don't know what it is about that, but it just kick starts my metabolism and makes me want to eat more. But if I just eat no carbs, straight meat for lunch, or a salad with like chopped up chicken in it or something like that for lunch,
Fine.
I'm fine. Like I could go without eating dinner, and I've done that. I've done 24-hour fast before, where I won't eat anything at all until dinner time, and then won't eat anything at all again until dinner time the next day.
Well, I think that you have inherited the same metabolism that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just reached an age where I have things that I want to accomplish in my life, and I have only, I figure if I get 28 more years, that's good.
Yeah.
But I can't get that 28 more years if I eat like everybody else on the planet,
It's not, I agree with you. And honestly, and this is going to start to sound like conspiracy theory stuff without getting into the weeds about how, like, I'm telling you, it's our food, it's American food.
Mhm.
The processed foods, the things they do to our bread, the things they put in our foods. There's like, if you try to cut two things out of your diet, you're going to find it is so hard to get them out of there. The two things are seed oils and food dyes, like
And I
artificial
figure,
food dyes. Like, so, like, you can color your food with paprika and turmeric and stuff, beet juice, whatever. But like, I'm talking like your red 40, your blue 5,
yeah, I
yellow
know.
1, whatever. If you try to cut out the
Those-
food dyes that are like basically banned in Europe and in Mexico, like you can get Mexican food that doesn't have that. Like you can get Mexican candies that don't use food dyes. And we get suckers. We
Thing
get
is,
suckers
you
for the
can,
kids.
those are put into processed foods.
Yes,
If you do not eat processed foods, it's easy to stay away from them,
right.
but it requires a lot of effort and a
It
lot of work.
it does, especially with little kids, because little kids are given food
Yeah.
at every function they go to. Like every game that my kids have, my son's in football, my daughter's a cheerleader. Every game at the end of it, the parents are like, so and so's mom is bringing snacks today. And you have to register. Like, we're all going to bring snacks on certain dates. So it's like,
Yeah.
so and so's mom's bringing snacks today. So and so's mom's bringing snacks today. And
Do
then,
they
like,
write down red dye number 4?
yeah, yeah, that's the
Seed
thing.
oils.
You don't want to look like a crazy person. So you get in there and they're like, look, Dad, we got Nutter Butters and Fruit by the Foots and Blue Hugs. And I'm like, cool, great.
Live it up. It's the last time you'll see them. Till the next time.
Yeah. So then, like, we'll let them have it because I'm not going to be the weirdo that's like, my kid can't have this. You know, my wife will be that
Well,
person, but
yeah, it's hard to educate other people.
it is. And then
And
not only that,
especially if they're not in the,
you can see their eyes just glaze over when you're starting to tell them
right,
that stuff's bad.
because they're not in a place where they even care.
No.
They think it's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
I bring a
I did have a
certain,
friend once who said he could eat a brick if you prayed over it and it would still nourish him. I think it would be
I
hard
have
to do.
in the lab, and we had this chemist intern in Calliope, and she was a Greek girl and very pretty girl, very fit, but she was going home to Greece in the summer between semesters, and she was trying to lose weight before she went. She said that the whole time she was in America, she just packed on pounds, packed them on, and she was eating diet foods like diet this and sugar-free that and
Well, that's
fat-free
the
that.
problem.
And like she was still gaining weight. She's like, why am I gaining all this weight when I'm eating these healthy things? And I said, I don't know. I mean, honestly, if I were you, I'd stick to real sugar and real fat. Like, I don't know, how these aspartames and fat-free oils are affecting your body, but they're probably not great. So,
Aspartame's terrible for you.
right. And I mean, being chemists, I think she would know that. Like, so like we all had to take
Look
chemical
at it.
toxicology. So that's an eye-opening course, by the way. But
Yeah.
anyway, so she would go back to Greece and like she would lose weight. And then she'd come back and she's like, I don't know how, but I'll spend 3 months in Greece and lose 30 pounds. And I'm eating cake and pasta and bread and oils and everything all day, every day. But I still lose weight.
Natural food.
Yeah.
And she's probably walking more.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because they have cars and everything, but their towns are built for walking.
Yeah. Yeah. And then but yeah, she would lose weight over there and then come back here and eat American food and gain weight. So it's like makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so
So
that's
now you
pretty
know
much,
about your metabolism. You inherited it.
yeah.
I don't think Jackie had the same metabolism. She was built,
Jackie and Angie. Angie's also like rail skinny and eats steak with butter on it and covered in mayonnaise, you know?
but those are fine.
Yeah, I know, but that's my
Our,
point.
our metabolism handles that.
Right.
Our metabolism does not handle it if you put it in a sandwich and with big bread.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But Jackie was built like Grandma Perry. And And grandma was always relatively thin all of her life,
Yeah.
you know. I was built like my Aunt Wava, who was considered the tub of the family. They thought she was so huge. And I look at pictures now, and it wasn't that she was huge. It was that everybody else was so rail thin
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Like
that she stood out.
I saw some funny photo and it was like the fattest man alive in 1940, and I'm fatter than that today in 2023. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't think my Aunt Wava ever got above 180 pounds. And it was such a burden for her to be overweight that it actually contributed to her death, because she was using uppers and downers to try to control it.
Yeah.
She and Elvis died the same way.
Yeah, I remember when when I was a kid and my mom was thin. Like my mom's thin, but like I think she's got to work at it, you know. Angie's thin, and I don't think she works at it. But like I remember my mom, she'd smoke Virginia Slim menthols and take with these things called mini thins and drink Diet Pepsi. Like those were like her lunch was like a cigarette, a mini thin with Diet Pepsi, and that'd be her lunch. That's all she'd eat. And then like for dinner, we'd have steaks, you know.
Which is really the way to mess up your metabolism. Yeah.
Right.
And Angie.
And then those mini thins, I think they were like probably some sort of banned, like ephedrine weight loss medicine plus caffeine, you know? I don't even know. I'd have to look into it, but yeah.
I don't know. But yeah. Angie, I don't know. I think she was built more like Dit Dot.
Dit Dot.
Dit Dot was her Dorothy, her mother, her grandmother on her father's side.
Okay. So, any information about my grandmother, like how she got married or her whole story with Terry?
She moved to Zanesville after she graduated from high school. Well, she went to beauty school and then she moved to Zanesville. And
I knew about the beauty school because we watched Grease together, and they have that song "Beauty School Dropout," and she was singing about it, and she was laughing. She goes, "That's me."
I don't know if she dropped out or not.
Well, I don't know if she dropped out.
She had her license.
Yeah.
As a beautician. But apparently there was a lot of partying going on. It was okay when she was living at the YWCA in Zanesville, but then she moved to the Zane Hotel because apparently there was a lot of partying going on there, and there were boys. So she met Terry there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old was she when she had kids?
I think she was like 18 or 19. She wasn't very old.
Everybody had kids so young. Like I waited to my 30s to have kids. Now I feel like the old man. Every time I go to these parent functions, I'm the oldest one there. I'm like the only parent with gray hair.
Really?
No, there's probably one or two that are like 56-year-old men that just happen to have kids with like a 28-year-old girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always a couple of those.
But yeah, she was probably 19. Juanita was probably 18. Richard was well into his late 20s or early 30s before he had kids. So it's
So is there anything else you want to
talk?
I am. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Like
I don't know. What do you want to know?
Any advice?
I can tell you horror stories, but yeah.
What's that?
I mean, living in Philo, growing up where I grew up in the house I grew up in, I mean, there was a lot of time to really just be.
Yeah.
You know? Because, it was a nice place to grow up. There weren't that many kids there. Of course, we only played with kids who were our own age. We didn't play with anybody who was a year younger or a year older. That
Yeah.
was like, yeah, and it was kind of ideal in a lot of ways. The neighbors across the street, it wasn't until a few years ago that I found out that she was a prostitute. She was married to this guy, and he was just a devout Catholic, came from a good family.
Well, they didn't
And
have
he
OnlyFans back then. She had to supplement her income some way.
apparently, and they had like 6 kids, and every time he would go to work and she would get all dressed up and get in the car, and all of her kids would line up on the sidewalk and scream and cry because she was leaving the house. Yeah.
Funny.
So we got to view that. I got to view that. I never understood where she was going, but she did. She went. She had a temper too, boy. I watched her pick up a
Have some more coffee, please. Thank you.
I watched her pick up a chain with big links in it. Like the links were like this big round.
Yeah, those big fat, like a truck chain, you know, something you can pull
Yeah.
a truck out of a ditch with. Yeah.
Exactly. And she picked it up and hit her son along the side of the head with it. That sticks with you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, she was not the nicest person on the face of the earth. But the rest of the people in town were fine. They were good people. The boys down the street who were friends with my brother would come and visit him, and then they'd soap the windows on the inside in the fall. Made my mom so mad. They soaped the mirror in the bathroom. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so what was I gonna ask about? Oh, are you planning to retire anytime soon, or
I'm kind of partially retired now.
are you like semi-retired? You only working a few days a week or something?
No, I'm contract labor. I work when I want. I know a lot of stuff about the industry, but I really hate the industry. I'm trying to build a new business, and it's taken me a long time to figure out who I want to market to. I really wanted to have the model where I was a public speaker for companies and all of that. And apparently that's not what I'm supposed to do. What I'm supposed to do is to take this information that I have and help teenagers use it to kind of bring them down to a point of not being able to function and function well.
Mm-hmm.
It was one day I heard this stat that this second most leading cause of death in 9 to 14-year-olds is suicide.
Yeah.
And that's so unnecessary because they were given the tools within them that all they have to do is tap into it and they'll be okay. This is called heart math. And
we have some history of suicide in our family, at least in mine, like my uncle, my grandfather.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
So
I don't think that anybody's ever killed themselves in our family.
So like, I mean, like Michael, my uncle Michael passed. He had some issues with his marriage and his life, and
you mean, oh, it wasn't Terry, it was Michael?
Michael, yeah, but also Terry, his father, Terry.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where like
I don't think Michael tried to kill himself. I just think he overdosed, way overdosed.
Well, that was the reason for the overdose was like and we found in his text where he was threatening to kill himself if his wife didn't come back.
Oh God.
And she basically said, then do it. So he OD'd, and he said, I'm taking these pills, and he did. And
Terry used to call my mother on a regular basis and tell her that he was going to kill himself.
so
Oh
runs
my
the family.
God. Yeah.
That's one of those things where it's like with my uncle or with my grandfather, like, I don't know, like, if you look at like the death certificate, like, you know, they just say died of asphyxiation, where he pulled his car into the garage
Yeah.
and like, but the question was, did he do it on purpose or did he just pass out in the garage with the car still running?
Well, they found him outside of the car
Right. He had gotten out and tried to get away.
and tried to open the door,
Yeah.
the big door, you know,
Mhm.
and it was Michael who found him.
I did
And
know
now
that.
here for a real thrill, Michael's daughter found him. Michael's daughter found him.
Yeah.
So it's just like a legacy going on and on. It's some kind of ugly curse.
Well, I'll cut that out of my
Yeah,
side.
you don't need to do that.
I'll be the
Yeah.
last. He can be the last Dickinson that did that. It's so irritating because I loved him and like I like talking to him, and it was like the only male figure in my life that's in our family that I could have that bond with and connect to and try to get some sort of a legacy from. And
And
for
he
him to
just
do that,
wasted it.
yeah. Plus, he was young. I mean, he was like 45. He was only
He wasn't very old, no.
no, he was 6 years older than I am now. You know,
Well,
and
I have considered suicide at times, but I just knew things were going to get better the next day. So I might as well just hang on.
that's something that like I've never wanted. I've never wanted that. I love life. I enjoy my life. I enjoy my
Yeah.
children. I enjoy my wife. Um, I enjoy my hobbies. That's
Mhm.
something that like one of the things I think I talked about with my mom and my aunt when I was a kid was like if I ever got to a situation where I felt like I was trapped and needed to,
Yeah.
I'd just disappear. I just like I'll walk away from it for my life for a while until I don't feel that way anymore.
Well, I think when you reach that point, you have to like dig in and come up and
Maybe I'll run
understand.
away from my wife and go watch professional wrestling, hide at a friend's house.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Well, I didn't tell you the worst part about the wrestling and Luke.
What's that?
We were living in Hawaii at the time, and of our first anniversary. And I had the joy of spending my first ever anniversary at a wrestling match at Pearl Harbor.
Maybe he was a closeted homosexual.
No, I don't think so.
with the wrestling, you know.
No, I don't
That's
know what it
different. Like
was.
that older generation, you never know. Like those guys, they would try to keep. Some of those guys were very open about it, but other guys, I feel like they might have been on the border, but not very open about it. You know,
But that's when wrestling was really on TV a lot.
it was mainstream. Yeah,
It was kind of mainstream, and it was like something he could do. I don't think he was ever allowed to play other sports. So, I think it was more of a fantasy world for
yeah.
him than
Oh, I get
anything.
it. I loved wrestling when I was a kid. I remember watching Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, all those guys, and just
Yeah.
being all about it. And I remember my Nintendo game I had was called like All Star Wrestling, and like you could be the wrestlers. I was like, yeah, this is dope.
Yeah, I don't know what his problem was. He and his second wife, I believe his second wife, are still living in Ohio. They live in Marysville.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea, have no connection with them at all. That's the nice thing about not having kids.
Yeah.
When people leave your life, they can go.
Yeah.
They can go
Yeah, if
someplace
you have
else.
a child with somebody, you're connected to them forever
Yep.
in a weird way. Like, yeah, I mean, my wife and I were married for 5 years before we had our first kid, but it didn't really feel real till we had a kid. No, I'm joking. I'm gonna walk away. I could walk away clean. You know, I might have to split the Dodge with her, but that's about it.
You have 5 years of your chance to go, but you didn't. So now you're committed.
Now I'm stuck.
Definitely.
Joking.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I divorced my first husband. My second husband died. I dated people for extended periods of time in between.
Yeah.
And I can say that whatever problems there were in my relationships, they had to do more with me than with my spouse.
Yeah.
So no matter where you go, there you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
Say hi.
Oh, she's a lefty.
Yeah,
She might be.
she has a lot with
Yeah.
her left.
She's a lefty.
She does a lot with her left hand. Yep.
Yep. Well, maybe she'll do both. That's always very useful. Yeah.
Never had to worry about the whole paternity thing. All my kids look very much like me. This is the one that looks least like me. Although Max did go through a phase where he looked more like Patton Oswalt than he looked like me.
I don't know. I think, well, she looks like Addie, and
She does. She looks like my father-in-law. I call her
Yeah.
Baby Bill. Yeah, Baby Bill.
The blue eyes.
Yeah, she's got blue eyes and a lighter hair.
yeah.
But Andy has blue eyes too.
But Angie has blue eyes too.
Yeah. Well, what color are your mother's eyes?
Brown. Mine, well, like mine, hazel, kind of hazily brown.
And Jackie had hazel eyes.
I have hazel eyes, yeah.
Juanita had green. Richard had brown. Jackie had hazel, and I have blue.
Okay. She is blue. Blue eyes. Max has hazel eyes. Adeline has brown eyes. Adeline's eyes are just like Abby's. Abby has brown eyes. Max and I both have hazel eyes. Max has the same blood type as me.
And the girls are like
And the girls are both like Abby. They're both like, I'm B positive, Abby's O negative. So both the girls are O negative. Max is B positive.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
I'm an O. I don't know if I'm positive or negative.
you're O.
Oh,
Okay.
universal.
The universal donor.
Yeah.
There you go. You and Abby alike.
Well, that it's good, to be a universal donor, which reminds me, I need to call them because they're running out of blood supplies here.
I'm glad that they don't like my blood because I don't like giving it. I had a bad experience once. I went in, I had had poison ivy because we were cleaning out. John Kunkel had me cleaning out all the brush around the back of his yard and putting it in a big burn pile. And I had poison ivy all over my forearms. Both forearms were just covered in it. And it was just driving me nuts. I was just scratching the crap out of it all the time and had all these bumps everywhere. And it was getting so bad that they ended up sending me to the doctor, and the doctor gave me like prednisone to help calm it down. And then at the time, my girlfriend in college was like, hey, we should donate blood. And they were doing like a blood truck outside of Walmart in the parking lot. So I was like, okay. So I went, and at the time, like I filled out all this stuff, and like, they give you a little paperwork to like name information, medications, yada, yada, yada. Do you take any regular maintenance medications? No. Okay. But then I put on there like, oh, well, I take prednisone. I'm taking prednisone because of the whatever. But for whatever reason, I guess prednisone precluded you from donating blood. But they didn't tell me. Huh?
It should have.
But they didn't tell me that until after they'd already taken my blood. And then they were like, well, we can't use it because of prednisone. And it was very odd. The whole thing was very unprofessional. And to make it worse, like they had this, what do they call them? A phlebotomist, like the lady who takes your blood. We had this lady doing it, and she looked like an old lunch lady. Like she didn't look very professional. And like she was doing mine, and I have these big fat veins that everybody can see. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, she missed it. And she said, it's wiggling on me. She keeps trying.
They do. They move.
She's like, it's wiggling. And she's just root. She didn't even pull the needle out. She went in and then just kept fishing around, just stirring it all up. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I was like 19. I was like, this is insane. And she kept digging around. And then she finally hits the right vein. but like, I guess she had like gone through the veins. She had to back it up. I'm like, lady. So finally she's done. I have this bruise that goes from like the middle of my arm all the way up my bicep. And then they're like, we can't use your blood. I'm like, never again. I will never do this again. And I haven't.
Well, never do it with that old lady there.
Nope, never
Um,
done. Never done it again. I give blood when
the-
I give blood twice a year for my doctor's appointments. I go in regularly for because I take blood pressure pills, and I think they
Yeah.
just want money because they haven't changed my medicine so long. But I still go in twice a year just for them to run the numbers.
Because the medication can have a very nasty side effect. So they need to keep an eye on that.
That's what.
Yeah.
So, but I've been taking it for 10 years and they've not had any issues. So
Dad had high blood pressure.
who did?
Dad,
Your
my
dad did?
dad.
Yeah.
And Jackie had, or mom had low blood pressure.
So did Jackie.
Yeah. So yeah, our blood pressure's all over the place. Mine was a rock solid 120/80 until I was about 55.
I've had
And then-
no other health issues except for my blood pressure being high. I've had
Mhm.
no other health issues. And I think a lot of that is from stress because I do have a temper and like I get angry and my blood pressure goes through the roof. But I'm trying to do better. Huh?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Yeah, they're calling it anxiety now. But anyway, what it is like I have a relatively high IQ, you know.
Yeah.
I'm in a position where I use my brain a lot and I have to deal with a lot of people doing scientific testing. Now, the great thing is the people I surround myself with at work specifically, they're all
Mhm.
kind of like-minded individuals and it all goes pretty smooth. But then when I have to deal with people outside of work that aren't in like the science kind of degree background, I can lose my patience pretty quick. Like sitting there watching a bunch of like cheer moms trying to organize the cheer thing, it just drives me nuts. Watching my son be a part of flag football and the disorganization of that organization. Like I will
That's
sit
a
there and
little
lose my
bit-
mind.
That's a little bit of judgment that you're passing on these people.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point where like I always have to be the one to step up and take charge. Not
Oh,
because
good.
I want to, but because nobody else is doing it. And so like I'll sit back and watch it just go to crap until eventually I stand up and go, okay, listen, maybe we could try doing it this way. I'm like, oh, great idea. And I'm like, yeah, that would have been fine. Like,
You
why
considered
do I have
this.
to be the one to suggest this? Like, why wouldn't you have just had the forethought to think of this? And then my blood pressure's just
Why didn't they just ask you to begin with? I've reached a point where there are certain things that annoy me. I have neighbors who drive through the neighborhood at like 65 miles an hour, which is pretty amazing that they can get it going that fast because there's
Yeah.
curves in the street, you know?
same here.
And then I have neighbors who play their music in their cars so loud that it causes a vibration in my house as they drive by. I hate that.
Yeah, I've had two neighbors that are kind of like that. I had one that I almost caused him to have a car accident. He had his windows down in his Cadillac and he was blasting down our street. It's 25 miles an hour. It's a residential neighborhood, you know? There's no major roads anywhere near us. He was flying and he lives right around the corner from us and shares a backyard with us. So he knows who I am.
Mhm.
And the guy is going so fast and we're all out in the front yard with the kids. And I screamed at him, slow it down. And he turns and looks at me and he's staring at me and not staring at the road. And he curbs it and almost takes out the stop sign.
He's not real good at driving.
No. And then we have these guys that we call the rednecks that live down the street the other direction. And they're the ones that set off fireworks starting in like March all the way to like October. Like
Yeah.
and a special again around New Year's. Like these guys, I don't know how they have a fireworks budget when they're all driving around in like cars that were made in the 90s, like in
Yeah.
trucks that were made in the 90s, but they've got like the lift kits on them and the trucks are rusting out. but like they'll start at the end of our road here at the stop sign and squeal their tires and go all the way down the road. And like I came out yelling at him one time, and he was like, "Oh, my transmission gets stuck," and I'm like, "Bull crap, dude, bull crap." I was like, "Don't do that again, man. I have kids that are sleeping. It's 10. It's like it's after 10 on a Wednesday. Like, what are you doing? It's like 1 a.m. and you're shooting off fireworks." So like I went over to their house one time. They're having a bonfire in the backyard. I walked right up to their bonfire, and they're like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I'm like, "Hey, you want to cut the shit?" Like, Abby's like, "Let's call the cops." I'm like, "I'm gonna walk over there. I don't want the cops to know I was there."
Your grandfather had a 1961 Chevy Impala, where the guy who had owned it before had allegedly put a brick on the accelerator and burned out the motor that came with the Chevy, and put in a 1962 409 with 3 two-barrel carburetors on it.
And this was
Yes.
Terry, Robert Terry.
Yeah. Yes. Robert Perry enjoyed taking his Impala out on the road, and he had to be the first car in every line, and he didn't play the radio loud, but boy, that car sounded fast sitting still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had two fast cars. My first car was a Cadillac Eldorado 2-door coupe with a V8, like a 5.8 liter or 5.2 liter V8, and it was fast. And then I had a Dodge Challenger right before Adeline was born, and that was a fast car. It was like a 09 Dodge Challenger.
Well, he would
Now we have a minivan.
that those 3 two-barrel carburetors had to be synchronized.
Mhm.
And he would decide to do that on Sunday mornings in the summer when the church across the street had the windows open during church service.
And who was this? This was Robert, your dad, or my
Yeah,
dad?
my dad.
Oh,
Yeah.
your dad. Okay.
Yeah. The brothers-in-law, Tom and Terry, referred to him as the Right Reverend Perry, owning church. It wasn't so bad that he was revving the engine. It was when he was cursing at the car.
Yeah, I've been there. It's funny how you'll start working on something and then you'll get into it. Like the other day, I was changing the brakes and rotors on my wife's minivan because I got a quote and they wanted $360 to do it. And I'm like, oh, I could buy the parts for 120, you know?
Yeah.
So I just did it myself. And, I had the van jacked up. I got everything off. I went to take the rotor off and the rotor was just frozen on there because sometimes they'll rust and just get stuck on there. So like I sprayed like PB Blaster and like WD-40 and every little crack and crevice I could find. And I was literally hammering on it with a sledgehammer to try to get it off. I'm swinging the switch like a long sledgehammer, just beating the crap out of it, trying to get this thing off, and it would not come off. And then I put the Fury on it where I'm just like, bang, and it just flies off. I about broke the rotor in half, but then I put the new one on.
I've talked to people who say that if you're going to maintain your car well in the snow country, that you need to take and oil those rotors every year.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I actually got like brake lube and I put that on the inside of the rotor cap where it goes up against the wheel bearing.
Yeah.
I did that so they'll easy release next time. But hopefully we won't still have that van the next time it needs rotors. Like I think it's a 2019, I think, or 2017. I can't remember. But no, it's a 2017 that we got in 2019. So
my car is 2018.
And then my truck is a 21. My Chevy Silverado is a 21. And my goal here is to pay off her van. And then because I think I owe less than $6,000 on it. So I'll probably pay it off in February. And then once that's paid off, I can do double payments on the truck, and that way the truck will be paid off. That's supposed to be paid off by 2026, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's 3 years from now. But if I do double payments, I can get it done in like a year and a half. And if I get a bonus, I can throw that toward it, depending on the amount of the bonus. And and try to
Although
get,
the interest rate on that car, on your truck is probably less than what you would pay on a new car right now.
oh yeah, it's low. It's really low. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's low. Here, I can tell you, I have the app. But anyway, yeah, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. I can't think of anything else at the moment.
Okay.
But I appreciate you meeting with me.
Well, if you have any other questions, the things that you want to know, I can tell you that Jackie used to wear her hair in a real tight ponytail in high school.
Mhm.
And some guy came up to her and handed her a penknife because he thought she was a guy. If
Oh,
you're
wow.
gonna be a guy here.
That's funny.
And yeah, it was interesting growing up in the house with Jackie.
I saw a photo of her where she looked like she had like Marge Simpson hair, like she had her hair all piled up on top of itself.
Oh yeah, that was probably around the time that she was at beauty school. She had
Yeah,
pink hair at one point because they would practice on each other,
that's
doing
cool.
stuff. And back then the beehive was a big thing. Yeah. She got away from that over time. Right. So what exciting thing are you going to do over the
3.99% is what I'm currently paying on the
Oh,
truck.
you will not come anywhere near that if
Yeah.
you buy a new one. So you might as well take care of them and keep them for a while.
Yeah, I want to keep the truck. I love the truck. It's in such good shape. Such a pretty truck that like I want to keep it for. I'm probably just going to keep it. That'll just be my daily driver until it breaks down. And then with my wife's minivan, like I don't want to have a new car payment. Right now I have two car payments, and I think I'm paying almost $1,000 a month just on car payments. So what we'll do is once her van's paid off and my truck's paid off, then
Mhm.
we can look into getting her a replacement for the van. Maybe some sort of an SUV. I like the Dodge Durangos a lot. The Chevys, Tahoes are looking good too. So we could get her something a little newer. And
What
then
year is her van?
2017. Yeah.
It's good for 3-4 more years.
Yeah. I mean, it's in good shape. And I've kept up with it. We keep up with it. It's got a warranty that covers most everything that we paid for that extended warranty. I think it's going to expire though soon.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of like trying to get it in there, get it looked over. So
With mine, I made last payment on it the next month. I was out someplace and I came home and I parked the car and I could hear this vacuum sound. I'm like, what in the world is the neighbor doing? So I get out of the car to go and see what the neighbor is doing. And as I walk by the front of the car, I realized the sound is coming from my car. The fan would not turn off.
oh wow.
Which is not a problem, except that it would run down the battery completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was a $60 part. And actually they said when they took the lid off of the fuse box that all they did was tap it and it went off right away.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, cars are nuts. Yeah, and it's so weird now because it's like my bonus sometimes. If I like with 3 kids, I get a pretty good tax return still, even though I'm making enough now that I'm in a higher tax bracket.
Yeah.
With 3 kids, I get like a pretty good return. And then on top of that, because my wife doesn't work, and
Yeah.
and then on top of that, like I've been getting a bonus pretty regularly. So it's like with those two things combined, I could have just bought her van outright while we bought it, instead of financing it. So like that's something I've looked at too, is like once we pay the van off, maybe just save money up and spend and just buy cash, just pay cash.
There's something good about having a savings account.
Yeah.
Yes. Because it's there just in case.
Right.
Yeah. I learned that during
That we spend it as
COVID.
fast as we make it because we're living like rock stars. Like we go to Disney and the beach and some like Tennessee. Like we've
Yeah,
been going
okay,
on a
you
lot of
did.
vacations every
Yeah,
year.
don't have to do that every year.
Yeah, we did that last year. We did we did what do we do? We did Tennessee in March, we did Myrtle Beach in August, and then Disney in October, you know? And it was like we went on 3 vacations. And that's
Mhm.
again, my kids, like, compared to how I grew up, we're rich, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, compared to how I grew up, we are.
When I
We're,
was a kid,
we're upper middle class, you know? Like, but
yeah,
when we were a kid, we were dirt poor living in like Section 8 apartments. Like, and
yeah. We had, when I was a kid, they had just built Disneyland.
yeah,
And I had friends who got to go to Disneyland. So we all were like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, I didn't go on vacation until I was already a man. Like,
I don't think I did one vacation. It was after I saw a picture of mom where I thought she had had a stroke.
yeah,
And I thought I better go visit her before she dies. So I did.
she lived
Don't
a long
ever,
time.
yeah, don't ever go to Florida in
Well,
July.
it worked well for her.
It did. Well, she got acclimated to it. We were down there and she wouldn't turn on the air conditioning in her trailer.
Nanny
And
was the same way.
oh God, it was so god awful hot in there. I thought I was going to die.
I
And
remember one time. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, we'd look out on, she had a thermometer on her carport,
Yeah,
and it would be like 8 o'clock in the morning and it was already 75 degrees out there and on its way up, for the rest of the day. Yeah.
I remember one time I was John Kunkel had me help, not help. Basically, I did it. Reseal his father's blacktop, like
Yeah.
like his father, Grandpa Kunkel. That's what we used to call him. You know. So
Yeah.
like he what is he like John Paul Kunkel the second? Because John Kunkel, my grandmother's husband, was John Paul Kunkel the third. So
Yeah.
his father needed his blacktop resealed. So I went over there and it was summertime and it was hot. And I had resealed it. And John had dropped me off there to reseal it. And I'd spent all morning in the sun resealing this blacktop. And nobody thought to say, hey Matt, maybe you should put some sunscreen on. But like I was always so tan though. Like I was so tan as a child. And like so I just stayed out there with my shirt off, putting down blacktop all day. And then like we put the buckets up, put the flags up, like don't drive in here, you know. And then he called his son to come get me. And so John picked me up, brought me back to my grandma's house. Because this was when I was in high school and I was living with them.
Yeah.
Because my mom had already moved up to Youngstown. So I was living with my grandparents my junior and senior year of high school. So they dropped me off. I came home and I was like, I'm so hot. I get in the house and it is every bit of 86 degrees in that house. I was like, why is it so hot in here? I was like, just turn the air conditioning on. They're like, we don't, it's fine. It's shady in here. We have fans going. I ended up going down into their basement and laying on the floor in their basement on like a blanket to try to get to like a cool, dark place to relax. I drank like a gallon of water and took a nap.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he ever pay you for those?
No, that
No.
was just no. Maybe he did. I don't remember. I think he might have given me some money toward the fair to get into the fair, which
Oh
was
yeah.
coming up in August, you know?
Yeah.
And like, cause that's, he would always like pay for me to get into the fair.
Is he still alive?
Who? John
John
Paul
Conklin.
the third?
Yeah.
Yes-ish. He has Alzheimer's.
Does he?
Yeah. Yeah. His daughter January and I talk still. And
So
she
she
gives,
sees. Yeah.
well, yeah, she sees him from time to time, but after him and my grandmother got divorced, he married some lady that was a lot younger. I think she was in
Yeah.
her late 30s, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Sucker.
yeah. So now she's taking care of him, but like, I think she's trying to protect her investment because she won't let him get around anybody. And like, he doesn't remember a lot and he's in and out. I went to his grandson's wedding, Dar's wedding last
Mhm.
summer.
Yeah.
And like, John's brother Ron was there with their son,
Mhm.
Adam, I think is his name.
Yeah,
So
I did. Didn't
anyway,
know you had a brother.
yeah. So like we were there talking to him and they said, yeah, we go see him. He doesn't really know what's going on, but that's what his dad passed from too, is Alzheimer's.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm in their case, it may have been just trying to forget all the bad things they did,
I don't know. John,
all the mean and nasty things they did to other people, you know?
I don't know. But John, it's sad that he's going like that. I was kind of looking forward to seeing him at the wedding, but then I
Yeah.
guess Jennifer didn't bring him. He said he was going. He went and got his hair done, got his teeth whitened or whatever to go to the wedding, and then she didn't bring him to the wedding. So
That's weird.
yeah, to his
I mean,
grandson's
that's his
wedding.
grandson. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know January wasn't very happy that they didn't bring him to the wedding.
Well, I've got to say, if you're taking care of someone who has an illness, especially an illness like that, it is exhausting.
I remember. Yeah, I remember because with Grandpa Kunkel, I would have to go over there, like basically to watch him. Like we
Mhm.
took it in shifts.
Yeah,
John would spend the night with them,
yeah,
and like during the daytime, they'd bring me over there to kind of sit with them.
yeah. But I mean, being a caregiver is the hardest thing on earth. Oh, speaking of which, is Ed out of the hospital yet?
Yeah, he's home. My step Ed is home.
Yeah.
I think it might have been like, so he had a blockage. They think it was because of he had like a hernia surgery at some point in time, and they think there had been like adhesions or like scar tissue
Or tissue,
that
yeah.
caused the blockage, but then he got an infection from there being a blockage. So they have him on like an antibiotic and an anti-inflammatory, and they got him home and they're scheduling a colonoscopy to kind of check it out.
My neighbor, I saw his car wasn't moving, and I never saw him. It never moved, and that's not like him because he delivers like brick pavers, they're made here. And so when I caught up with them, finally I found out that he had developed, well, he was going septic from his similar situation
Yeah,
that he hadn't told anybody about. Oh, he's a big, strong man. He can handle it. He was in the hospital for probably 2 months.
yeah, yeah. It can get back.
That was-
Yeah, it can
Yeah.
get back quick. So yeah,
It-
they're
yeah.
they're gonna have to schedule something to check him out. My mom's kind of not being very attentive to his needs. I've been calling her all kinds of funny names, Mama Kevorkian, like
Apparently, when Ed retired,
Dolores Claiborne. What's that?
Ed has changed. When I talked to her, that was the idea I got from her, that he just prefers, he'll just fall asleep on the couch and stay there all night. He's just not
He's had
engaged.
he's had a lot of health problems. I mean, he had the back issue. They had to do the back surgery. He still got nerve damage.
Oh, wow.
He had a tumor along his spine. They had to remove, but it caused nerve damage.
Yeah.
But so then they had him on all these medicines for the painkillers, and I think he's having trouble with that.
Yeah.
And then now, even to this day, like he's still got like pain and issues that he's dealing with. Plus, I mean, he's no spring chicken. I mean, like he's getting up there. I think he's either in his late 60s, early 70s. I'm not certain.
I think he's in his late 60s.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then it also probably doesn't help that like he's having to raise a child, like that he never expected to have to raise. I mean,
Yeah, and he didn't want kids.
no,
You know?
he doesn't have kids of his own, and he never
Right.
wanted kids. And think of it from his perspective, like, you're thinking you're marrying some hot young bartender being my
Babe.
mom.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, and like his plans were, we're gonna ride around on the Harley together and go to the bars and go on vacations together. And then my sister basically abandons her own child with my mother, and he was like, "We're not raising that kid. Now they're raising the kid." And
Yep.
yeah, that's got to be depressing that your life isn't going the way you thought it might go.
Well, yeah, but buck up, bud. Put on your big boy pants and just figure this is what life is. Make the best of it you can. You
Yeah.
know? And it's very conceivable that Zane has issues that he inherited from heaven,
Yeah,
and that makes him a little bit difficult to deal with on a regular basis.
yeah,
And I think Julie uses the Jackie method of raising children, that you just ignore things that you don't like about them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Zane, he's got some special needs for certain. You know, and it's just one of these things that, like, I've told my mom, you've got to get him involved in some sort of group sports or something, because he has no kids that are his friends, none. He has no kids
Well,
his age that are his
He
friends.
has to stay at home all
Yeah,
the time.
I mean, and it
Oh,
just that'll make a kid strange, and the older they get, the stranger they get, and
Yeah.
it's not going to make people want to be his friend. And
And it's almost too late for him at this point.
I'm on the fence on that one. I agree with you to a point, but I think, like, we brought him out to one of Max's flag football games,
Mhm.
and Max was running the ball, and Max saw my mom and Zane over there, and I'd put a blanket down on the ground for Adeline and Zane to sit on. They were sharing French fries,
Yeah.
and Max saw them and ran toward them with the ball, and like 6 kids came and like tackled him into them, and it was kind of funny. Like, they were a big kid pile up pretty much over there, right in front of Adeline and Zane, and like Zane was a little like, "Whoa, this is crazy," and then Max is just laughing, like they got up and kept running, and like they ran off, but like Max stopped. Like, Max is so much bigger than all the kids his age, and like when he stopped, they all got him. If he doesn't stop,
Yeah.
they can't catch him. But when he stopped, they all just bum rushed him and knocked him down, and he was just laughing. And then he got up and took off again with the ball. But like, yeah, it just funny, like, and I told my mom, I was like, you could, like, get him involved in flag football. Like, they do flag football all the way up to adults, and it's
Yeah.
fun, and he'll be part of the team, and he's a big kid. Like, he might not have like the speed, but he's got the height and the weight.
But he doesn't have to, he has no opportunity to develop speed.
Right.
Where's
So
he going to run?
yeah, so he can swim. I can tell you that he's a good swimmer, because she's got
Good.
and I think it was either swim or die.
Probably.
So so yeah, he needs to get involved in something, some sort of a group activity where he can make friends.
He cannot be grandma's baby.
No.
Forever.
And like, the problem with my mother is that, like, her peer group is all grandparents, like all of her friends have grandchildren. So she wants to be a grandma too, but you're not anymore. You're raising this kid. You have to treat him like a child that you're raising. And
Yeah.
like, for example, my peer group is all parents. So
Yeah.
like, parents, like, for us, we're trying to out discipline each other. We're like, I would never let my kid do that. I'd shut that down. Like, we sit around just BSing about how
Yeah.
stern and strict we are with our kids. And
They're
versus
not.
like grandparents are, I got my granddaughter, this pony. Like, my mom's like, oh, I'm gonna buy Zane a Nintendo Switch and 17 games for it. And I'm like, really? I'm gonna feed him cake for breakfast. And I'm like, that's not great, Mom. No, that's not good for him. Like,
No.
you got to treat him like you would, the way we treat our children. She didn't treat me that way. I never got spoiled like that as a kid.
Well, she's making up.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to be the nerdy kid in the neighborhood if they're not careful.
Yeah. And he doesn't really, because he doesn't deal with other kids a lot, he doesn't understand how to deal socially with other kids. So like, my mom kisses him like on the face a lot. And then I think like he hugs and kisses my mom's friends because they're all in their 50s and 60s. And like, I think he thinks that's normal because he tried to hug and kiss Max. I'm like, we don't do that, man. Like, I'm like, no, that's strange. We're not mouth kissing kids your own age. That's odd, you know? And so like, there's just certain things because he's being raised by.
No, because he's around her all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
He takes his social cues from my mom, but my mom is, an older bartender that is all huggy and kissy with her friends.
yeah.
And he thinks that's just how you are. And I'm like, no, it's not how you are.
But she's
And
hugging and kissing with her friends, but not necessarily her family.
she is. No, she's super huggy and
Is she?
kissing with us too. Yeah, I don't like it. I'm still trying to kiss my kids. I'm like, don't kiss them. Don't kiss them. I don't even kiss them. Don't kiss my kids.
Yeah, germs are around.
Yeah. Come here, Adeline. Like, so like, I hug my daughter and I kiss her on the forehead. Mwah.
Yeah.
Where do I kiss you? Where else? Fairy saddle, right there.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I'm not big on like mouth to mouth.
Oh, no, that's
It's-
okay.
Maybe I'm strange, but
No,
like, I let them, they'll kiss me on the cheek, you know?
yeah. I I don't know. I think after I was 5, nobody in my household ever touched me, like hugged me or kissed me
Mhm.
ever. My mother kissed me when she came to visit in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I about fainted.
Your mother used to kiss me, and we used to call it Grandma Lila kiss.
Yeah,
And it was borderline kind of gross because
yeah,
where she could reach me was like I'd lean down and she'd kiss me on the neck, and it was always
yeah.
wet. It was like a wet mouth. So every once in a while, like I goof around with my wife. I was like, I'm gonna give you the Grandma Lila kiss. I'm about on the side of her neck. She's like, oh, don't.
She adored you when you were born.
Yeah.
She thought you were going to be the next Billy Graham because you would come out with stuff.
You know what that was? It was because
TV.
we didn't have cable. Yeah. And Sunday morning it was all church stuff. So like I would just
Evangelic.
watch the televangelists, and then I'd
Yeah.
see her and just be telling her the good news about our Lord and Savior.
She loved that. She thought that you were going to be a preacher and you were going to be just wonderful.
Not too
Yeah.
late. I might still.
Eh,
I
it's
mean,
not what it's cracked up to
I
be.
gave stand-up comedy a try. I won some comedy competitions in my early 20s, and then I
Yeah.
kind of got away from it, but I always like being the center of attention. So
Oh, yeah.
maybe I'll
I
switch
love that.
gears. Maybe I'll switch
I'm
gears.
thinking, I'm thinking about coming up with a routine and going to the local comedy club
It's
on
fun.
open mic night. I mean, I love that stuff.
I started out doing that. What they used to do, there was like in Easton, Ohio, they had like the Funny Bone, and like
Mhm.
the way it worked was they had bringer crowds. So like bringer nights, like you could do open mic night, but you had to bring at least 5 people that paid,
Oh, wow.
you know,
Yeah,
in order for them to let you go up and get some stage time, and then you'd
yeah,
get 5 minutes. So it's like you get a minute for every person you brought, basically. Like, well, you'd get 5 minutes regardless, but like you had to bring at
yeah.
least 5 people with you. So like I brought like all my friends, and we came up and we all paid to get in. And like but I did such a good job that like the host of it liked me, and he would invite me back, and I didn't have to bring people because they wanted to have because they wanted to be entertaining.
Yeah,
So for like the 5 or 6 open micers that you would bring, like most of like 4 of them would be duds, that just get up there and not have much good material. So
yeah.
like, but me, I would make their group laugh, the other people's group laugh. And then you have other people that just come to watch the open mic nights. So like, so the host would invite me back. And then they also had another one at a place called the Barn in Zanesville, and they used to do a comedy competition every year. And like, I would win that. I won that once. I got runner up twice and won it once. But then once you won it, like you get money. And then like the guy who would host that had a traveling group that would go to different bars, different comedy clubs, and they would invite me, and they'd pay me like $50 to come and do a show.
Yeah, it's the traveling around that bothers me.
And for $50, it's like it's not like you're making an income on that.
No,
So even
no.
if you were making $50 a night, which I wasn't, like it was
Yeah,
like $50 a Saturday, like once a month.
yeah,
And then I'd spend it all at the bar. So, and I'd try to pick up girls and take them home. Like that was my whole thing.
yeah, yeah. If you watch some of the comics
Yeah.
that are popular now, they started out that way. And then now they just go and do their job and go back to the hotel room or
Yeah.
go home. Yeah, one of those.
Hey, turn around, say hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Being weird. All right, go back over there. Love you. He's huge. He's a huge 4-year-old. Look at this. He's a
How tall is
65-pound 4-year-old.
No.
Oh, wow.
You just.
Oh, I didn't weigh 65 pounds until I was in school. Yeah.
Long, big kid.
Yeah, it comes across that.
But Look,
Honestly.
I'm setting up
What?
Roblox.
Oh, you're setting up Roblox? Cool. All right, go out of here, please. Love you. Take your sister back with you. Hi, Bella. Go with Bubby.
They're not bad, they were good kids.
Yeah, they're
We were
cool.
worried about them and they're not even close to being a problem. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
That's our song. Hi. Hello. How do you do? What are you doing? I'm helping too. Because she's always interested in what you're doing and she wants to do it with you.
Well, yeah, that's how she learns.
So
Did she have her own room yet?
she does, but she doesn't use it.
Oh,
So the way we did this was we have 3 bedrooms and an office.
yeah.
So Max and Adeline each had their own room, And then when this one came, we had the master bedroom with a half bath. What Abby and I ended up doing was we turned that into the nursery. And we moved our bedroom into the office because the office is the biggest room. It's an addition that they built onto the house anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So like we used to have a couch in there and a bed and a TV, entertainment center, and a desk for me to work at.
Yeah.
And like now we took the couch and put it in the basement for now. The TV's still in there, but we put our bigger bed, our king size bed in there, and we took that queen bed and we tore it down and put it in the basement. And then and then my desk is still in there. So but yeah, so now we're living out of the office and she has her crib and everything set up in the nursery, which is our old master bedroom. But we've already talked about what we're thinking of doing here is when she gets a little bit older, is maybe move her and Adeline into one room with like bunk beds or something. We can put or give Adeline the master bedroom with her and have 2 twins on opposite sides because the master bedroom's pretty big. And then
So
like
that they feel separate. Yeah.
yeah. And that way, they have their own bathroom. That could be the girls' bathroom,
Yeah.
Then I don't have to get out, go to my room and go across my room to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
That'll be in the same room.
Yeah, she'd be in the same room with the bathroom.
And she seems to like Bella, so that's fun.
She likes her now, but the problem, and Abby's brought this up before, is like, how long will this last? That she's going to want to be.
Bella's 6, Adeline's 12.
Yeah, when Bella's 6, Adeline's going to be 12, and are they still going to want to share a room? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jackie and I shared a room until
You were 42.
Anita left.
Yeah.
Yeah. She thought that was great. No. Yeah.
It's funny because it's really not a hardship to share a room with a sibling. It's not a big deal. I lived in apartments with my mom, and like literally they'd be 2-bedroom apartments where her and her dude would be in one room, and me and my sister would be in the other room. And I remember being a teen and having to live through that, and it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, I didn't like it. I still don't like my sister, but but it is what it is.
Jackie didn't like me and she didn't like sharing a room with me. And when Juanita moved out, she got Juanita's room and I got the big bedroom all to myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting.
So we do want to move, but like, look at we're paying less than 2% interest on this house.
Yeah.
We owe less than $70,000 on it.
Oh my God.
We have it's valued. We have probably 180 grand in equity in our house. We've been here for almost 10 years, or it's 8 years now. Yeah, we've been here.
You can't replace it.
And it's like, even if we sold this place for $200,000 or more, like, where would we move to that we would get something as nice or better? It's not
And you'd
possible.
be paying more in interest.
Yes, because the interest rates are like 7 or 8% now. So it's like we've talked about maybe buying land. I've got a home equity line of credit that has like a 2.5% interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was like, maybe I can just use some of the home's equity to buy land somewhere. But like if I can buy a big bundle of land for like 60 grand, that'd be cool. And then potentially build on it later.
Yeah.
So,
But those, at one time they had pre-manufactured homes that were very economical and
Yeah.
yet very nice homes, very sturdy and well built.
yeah, they had a
And-
company in Zanesville that made those. That makes those
And-
manufactured homes.
And they were reasonably priced.
Yeah,
Well, that's over.
yeah.
They're charging as much as a
Yeah,
regular
I'm not
house.
gonna pay 150 to 200 grand for a mobile home. That's crazy.
Well, these aren't mobile,
Right.
they're built in sections.
Yes, and then they bring them in and put them on a slab.
Or over a basement, they can do either. And they look like a stick-built house,
Get
but
off.
they have more for them, you know.
Yeah. Well, I did see something online that was like kind of a hack that you could do. If you
Mhm.
buy land that's undeveloped and you put a mobile home on it, as long as you don't put a foundation down, it's not considered a permanent residence. So you
Right.
don't have to pay residential property tax on it.
Right,
So it can kind of save you some money.
yeah,
And you can still consider the land undeveloped even though you're living on it.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know that
But
I'd
that's-
want to live in a mobile home. They have issues.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take like 6 mobile homes and just stack them all together, one on top of
Why
the other.
don't you get shipping containers?
I've seen that too. The other thing we've talked about is even this is like the new trend is like these like barn house barn dominiums. Basically, it's what you do is you pour a concrete slab and then you put like maybe 6 big posts that are seated in the concrete, and then you basically build a big barn and then you put a house inside the barn. And some of them look really nice, but they're significantly less expensive than construction of traditional family
Oh,
home.
because the barn takes all the weather.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's just like it's like corrugated steel is your out. You know, you have steel roof and you have steel beam that are go in between. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll send you some videos of those. They're pretty neat.
Uh,
All right, but I'll let you
Okay.
go. I think we've
Okay.
talked for 2 hours, so
If you have anything else you want to know, just let me know.
I will. But thank you for this. I'll
Uh-huh,
stick with this for now.
okay.
I just put her down, let her walk off.
Oh, yeah,
She's walking pretty good.
that's good.
This one's still not walking very good. She falls a lot.
Does she?
She's like a newborn giraffe. She has these real long legs.
Yeah. She came by that, honestly.
Yeah, but she's awkward and trips a lot.
But sometimes they don't go where you want them to go.
The good news is though, she takes instruction really well, and she trained to do her cheerleading stuff, and she was perfect at her cheer thing.
Well, good.
So she nailed all the moves, put her body right where it needed to be, in all the right positions. But it's just the day-to-day walking around that she gets real floppy.
Well, because she looks at other things, the mind goes someplace else and you're not paying attention where your feet are, and they just do their own thing.
I got mad at her last night. We were at Sam's Club and we were waiting in line to leave Sam's Club because now there's a line to leave the store where they check your receipts. So we do they're like, save time, skip the line, do scan and go on the app. I'm like, okay. So I scan and go my groceries on the app and I pay on the app. And then I go to leave and I got to wait in a freaking line of 20 people to leave because they're so slow at checking every item in your cart. So
Oh,
anyway,
really? They don't check the items. They count how many items.
now they
Yeah.
scan the items. They scan your receipt and then they scan so many items. They have a minimum requirement of 3, I think. Oh,
Wow.
she just fell now. You okay? Yeah, pick it up.
See, they don't do that here.
Just fell.
We check out like normal people and
Yeah.
go show them our little thing and we leave.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's Sam's
last
Club.
night-
I go to Costco.
well, at Sam's Club, like they had to check your receipts. So we're waiting in line to check the receipts and she's getting bored. So she's like leaning her head against my shoulder and kind of spinning back and forth on one leg. And then her foot slips out from underneath her and her hand comes up and she smacks my phone out of my hand that I'm holding because it has the receipt on it. Smacks my phone out of my hand, sends it flying. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, just stand on your feet.
Accidents happen.
Yeah.
So
All right.
what are you doing the rest of the day?
Well, we were going to take the kids to this place called White House Fruit Farms because they are harvesting the apples this time of year.
Yeah.
And we love Honeycrisp apples and some of their other apples, and their apples are so good.
Yeah, they would be.
And it's got this huge orchard that like they do apple picking where you can come pick the apples you want, but
Yeah.
also they sell them by the bushel. So you can get like if you go to Sam's Club and buy a small bag of Honeycrisp apples, it's like $10 or $11 for a bag of apples, and it's not very big. And hold on, I can tell you specifically. 4 pounds. 4-pound bag of apples. is
Oh,
$11.
yeah. Oh, ours aren't $10.
$11 for a
Really?
4-pound bag of apples. Yeah. But if you go to White House Fruit Farms, you can get a cardboard box full of loose apples for like $20. And you'll get like 50 or 60 apples in there.
Yeah.
And the kids love them. So
And if you store them in a cool place, they'll last
put
for
them
a
in the
long
basement. Yeah, put them down on the shelf in the basement. And then just
Yep.
go down and get as many as you want. And
Yep.
then they'll last the whole winter down there. And we love them. And they have fresh pressed apple cider and all kinds of good stuff. So I was actually thinking what I'll do is I have like some glass carboys. I think what I'll do is get some apple cider and put a little bit of yeast in there and like, just kind of ferment it, make some hard
Yeah.
cider.
Yeah, as long as the kids know to leave it alone.
Yep. Just leave that in the basement, let it ferment.
Yeah.
We had a babysitter when we were kids who was Pentecostal, and like her husband was messing around with that, like making some hard cider in the basement.
Mhm.
And she didn't know that those glass jugs were, cider, like hard cider. And she
Yeah.
brought it up and gave all us kids hard cider.
Oh, wow.
And her husband came home and was like, what are they drinking? They're drinking cider, but they're being crazy. And he goes, where'd you get cider? You had fresh cider in the basement. He was like, that was hard cider. You can't give them that. Like,
Well, put a label on it, for
I
God's
think it was like
sake.
7% alcohol.
Wow. I had hard cider for the first time like 2 weeks ago. It was excellent. It was recommended with low carb that was an acceptable alcohol drink.
It's so easy to make because all you're taking is fresh pressed cider, which
Mhm.
has a ton of sugar in it already.
Right.
And then you can get pretty much any kind of yeast. Like you can get active dry yeast for making bread, but they make
Yeah.
specific like wine and beer yeast that you can buy packets of.
Uh-huh.
And like you don't need very much, but you can put extra in there, it won't matter, it'll just die. And like you put the yeast in there, and then you can either put the lid back on loose so that the air can escape, like it'll jiggle around, or you can buy these little like go-betweens that like basically it's like a vent for making alcohol, and it just plugs down in there, and it has like a little L bin with liquid in it so that it'll let the gas escape but not let air in.
Wow.
And that prevents like bugs or whatever from getting in there. And
Yeah.
then so you can do that and then let it sit for a few weeks, and what you'll see is like a yeast cake will form, like as the yeast consumes all the sugar and then dies. The byproduct is ethanol and carbon dioxide, whatever. So all the yeast will sink to the bottom, and you'll see like a white cake at the bottom of all the dead yeast. And then what you do is you just decant that through a filter, like a coffee filter, into something else. And then then you've got fresh hard cider. And you can even measure the specific gravity of it before and after to determine what your percentage of alcohol is. But depending on the amount of yeast and the amount of sugar that's currently in there, you could have anywhere from like 4 to 7% alcohol.
Hmm. Well, I found it was very good. I liked it.
Well, I'll let you go. It was nice talking to
Okay.
you.
It was good talking to you. Have a good day. Have fun.
Thanks.
So-
You too.
All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.